Welcome to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, the podcast that cuts through the rubbish to explore the world of neurodiversity. I'm your host, Nic King.
And I'm your host, Kate Fox, and together we're here to explore, understand, and celebrate being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. From ADHD and autism to dyslexia and other quirky brains, we talk about it all.
And go off on tangents. So, whether you're neurodivergent, love someone who is, or you're just curious about neurodivergent minds, you are in the right place.
Let's get ready to juggle some words and maybe even a few chainsaws, metaphorically, of course.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws with myself, Nic, and Kate Fox. And it is our Christmas special. How has December happened already? Very happened. However, I want to start with some nice feedback that we got from our listeners. You can always write in, there's a box on the website. You can just stalk one and just, whatever. But
it feels validated, doesn't it, to have feedback and
because really, when we're doing this, however much I love talking to you, and I hope you like talking to me, I'm sure that's probably a thing that you like.
I do.
Yes. Validation. But like we would like to be able to talk to you, but maybe we can sort that out. Maybe we'll get to that. We kind of know about that already, don't we? Okay, so feedback. Somebody wrote into it and said that they'd very recently come to the realization that they were autistic and they're very almost 50. And as many of us do after a very significant burnout. And they were telling us how they'd wished they'd known before they were perimenopausal. I hear that. But they don't know anyone else that's autistic. So we are like their autistic neurokin in their life, and they're feeling sort of like valued and seen in our space. And so I just want to kind of go and grab them all and
I know,
hug them with consent.
Yes, exactly. And to say for someone to feel valued and seen by hearing us two chatting on about these things, that is a very wonderful gift, isn't it? And I've quite recently had similar feedback from someone in person who came to one of my Bigger on the Inside shows, and I mentioned the podcast and they've started listening, and they were kind of choking up when they were talking about how hearing these conversations was making them feel like they were not alone. And that, I feel so lucky to, quite literally in this instance, I'm talking to you, Nic. By definition, I am not alone. And I have got more neuro kin in my life in the last few years when I've been able to go out and about to conferences and doing my show. That's how I sort of explicitly gathered them. And I it's so important, and yet so many people still do not have that. They probably do have neurokin, actually. Possibly, but not in a. They don't know they are, if you know what I mean. As in, maybe their mate, in fact, is also neurospicy.
There's also a bit of a privilege in being like very, very out, isn't there?
Yeah, totally.
It's not always safe in all like spaces, and particularly workspaces. Anyway, we're going to get off topic. If people wanted to come and be our neurokin in the safe space, when can they do that?
They can do that on March the 6th at Gosforth Civic Theatre near Newcastle when we're doing our live, it's complicated, live podcast recording. We'll be live, but the podcast won't be live. It'll be recorded. We'll be live, and the audience will be live as well, hopefully. Otherwise, that would be a medical emergency when we'd have to stop the recording. Anyway, it'll be lovely. We'll be chatting, and we'll chat to the audience and take audience questions. We will keep releasing information about this. But for now, we are talking Christmas because it is nearly Christmas, and that has many implications for the neurodivergent among us. So Christmas, Nic, if I say it's nearly Christmas, how do you feel about that?
I think I've now cultivated and curated a Christmas that kind of works for us as a family. So
Ah,
I'm kind of cool about Christmas now. We don't have anyone over. We don't necessarily get dressed. We do Christmas jammies. Food is as and when it happens, and if the kids want to eat fish fingers and waffles or I don't know, ham and wraps, whatever they normally eat every day, that's fine. There's no pressure for them to eat. In fact, there's no pressure for them to eat anything other than chocolate if they wanted to all day. And I think that's where we've gotten to. We used to have family over. We used to have people over on Christmas Day. We used to have people over on Boxing Day. Um, and not that they're not lovely people, but they don't see my children often, and they are not necessarily neurodivergently compatible. And as always, it's normally the expectation for the children to wind in their behavior or sensory seeking, or generally just running around my house screaming like lunatics because it's Christmas Day and they've been up since a ridiculous hour. And in theory, some weird man with a beard has dropped off some toys or something. And like, there is nothing chill about Christmas Day when you have small neurodivergent humans. Um, I also think there's a huge amount of pressure, like, you know, pressure. Which is also why I prefer Halloween. But like, so we've gotten to the point now where we've just sort of figured out what works for us and done it.
and was there a sort of flashpoint? Did you have to sit down and tell the visitors after that flashpoint, enough's enough? So this is two questions really. Yeah, was there a flashpoint? Also, how did you get the visitors to stop coming?
Okay, so there was a flashpoint, but it wasn't probably what you expected. There was a year, when was it? 2014? 2014 going into 2015. We did a massive house extension and it was not done. It was running 3+ months late, and we had to move back in on the 23rd of December. I did not have flooring, I did not have running water. The hob wasn't even wired in until the morning of Christmas Eve. So that Christmas was the Christmas that, like, we got rid of everyone. And yeah, and that was the point where we said, let's just not do that again.
So actually, although
Mm.
it sounds like so you kind of there was almost something that forced the issue.
Yeah.
That almost sounds like then if someone's thinking, how can I stop my visitors coming and enjoying seasonal family cheer?
I don't
Like,
recommend building work in December.
oh,
That's not
okay,
something
good
I'm
point.
advocating for.
Pretend to have renovations and go, we can't possibly have you over. We've got no kitchen, and then just never ever invite them again.
We
Excellent.
still don't have a kitchen, no. But I do, it's hard, isn't it, sometimes to set those boundaries, particularly with family, particularly like, we have these very conceptualized ideas of tradition, don't we?
It's such a huge thing for people to go against the sense of, first of all, you have to be together
Mm.
in the wider sense. Second of all, yeah, you have to fulfill tradition. Third of all, what that means, what a happy Christmas means, is lots of people around a big table, like a Tesco advert with gravy and stuffing bowls and
Possibly a talking carrot.
yes, oh indeed, um, and beaming faces. Um, So I don't know if it would come as any surprise to a regular listener to know I have opted out of all those things. None of those things happened. I've had a couple of times in my life where there was a kind of soft opt out. And one time was for about 6 years where with my stepmom, who I don't think she was autistic. I think, if anything, kind of CPTSD from growing up in wartime and being quite a sensitive soul. Um, she really needed routine in her life. That was very important. She may have been autistic and I just could never read it. So it's interesting. I don't think she was. Anyway,
Okay.
so for her, Christmas was quite difficult because she didn't like that her usual routines of having the same food on the same day and doing the same things were interrupted. It's never particularly been her thing. So when for a while I was single and she was on her own, we went away on these mini city breaks, and the first one we went to Vienna, and then we went to Barcelona, we went to Geneva, went to Salzburg, quite Christmassy places, although actually over Christmas itself, they're not that Christmassy because everything shuts, but um and we would just have 2 or 3 nights away. Now, for me, there were certain disadvantages because I needed more space than I got in those 3 days. It was difficult. We would share a room, and she went at quite a slow pace, so it was quite. However, for both of us, it suited us not to do Christmas, and I would happily come back, and she would always make mince pies and fruit cake, and I would eat those then in between Boxing Day and New Year. I was usually working for many years as a radio journalist. For those years, it was actually quite simple, if not ideal for me. I do like lots of the trappings of Christmas, actually. When I say trappings of Christmas, I like mince pies. I like turkey sandwiches. I like Doctor Who, the Christmas special. These are all quite important to me. Are there any other trappings? Oh, I like warm fairy lights and stuff. Yes. So the Christmas generally has more positive associations. But anyway, last year, I think I had the best Christmas of anyone I knew, honestly, because anyone I asked, they'd be like, oh, it was quite busy. It was quite chaotic, or oh, it was quiet because we were all poorly. Or, I must know some people who have lovely, happy Christmases, but I didn't encounter any. Whereas me, I went off to the lovely Buddhist retreat in a lovely, picture perfect sort of part of Yorkshire that was really wintry and beautiful, and meditated and had a vegetarian Christmas dinner, which I never thought I'd like due to the lack of turkey. But actually, nut roast was lovely. Who knew? Watched Doctor Who when I came back and had turkey sandwiches and mince pies. I am mentioning these things a lot. Basically, I start having turkey sandwich and mince pie on about the 1st of December, and I can't give it up until about the 31st of January. I was very happy. Same foods for me. Anyway, it was so quiet. It was so relaxing. My family, it's very sad, but also they're all dead or don't speak to me. That does sound very sad. Sorry, I've just skipped over that a bit. But actually, I have my friends and my family, but they're all off doing horrendous things. Um, I mean,
When you say horrendous things, I assume you don't mean like, war. I assume you mean like parties.
well, it can be war, can't it? No, I mean they're doing. I
They're
don't know.
doing Christmas.
They're doing Christmas. They're fulfilling the obligations of others, and I'm like, you don't have to do that. And they would be well within their rights to go, yeah, well, you're a child-free, currently single, 49-year-old poet. It's all right for you. Like, I totally take this point, but I feel like this is quite successful. I do seem to have quite. I mean, I did for a few years after my marriage. See, in married Christmases, we were both neurodivergent, wanted a quiet Christmas, but it was probably a slightly sad Christmas. It was a very little Christmas. We were trying to do our version of a Christmas. Probably both of us having an idea of that happy Christmas in our mind. Oh, the family Christmas, the lovely Christmas. Neither of us actually would have been able to. It wouldn't have been enjoyable for either of us, but the idea was still quite large, and
Yeah.
it was. And it's the idea as well, isn't it? It is not just the reality of those obligations and the fact that you've got children and you want to make it a happy Christmas for them in a certain way.
Mm.
It's the Christmas concept
Do you
is
know what
very.
other tradition you might be upset with us now? I
Go
don't
on.
do turkey.
No,
Don't do turkey on Christmas Day.
other meats are available. What
Other
do you
meats
do?
are available. We tend to do pork and chicken now because
Oh yeah,
nobody was eating the turkey.
all
Like it
right.
was quite clearly, and like at Christmas they get ridiculously expensive, at the local butcher. And I was like, nobody is eating this. Like it's clearly the third choice of like leftovers here. Like it's nobody's
Yes.
eating this. Why
And
are we
again,
buying it?
it's that simple, but a lot of people struggle to do this.
Mm.
Are people eating and enjoying this turkey? And if the answer is no, it's like, oh, that's a no-brainer, get a different thing. And if it's me, obviously the answer is yes, I wish there was turkey all day. every day of the year. Anyway, but again, people can struggle with this. It's as if maybe there's a need for an external permission that is not really going to be very forthcoming in society
Mm.
to let go of yeah, what doesn't work. Okay, let's talk, because I'm aware, sorry, I feel like I did the world's longest monologue about my independent Christmases.
Hello, lovely listener. Are you enjoying the podcast? If you would like to support us, you can leave a tip via the PayPal link on our website at www.neurotypicals.don't-juggle-chainsaws.co.uk. And every little bit will help us keep the show going, and we will truly appreciate it.
To presents.
Presents.
Yeah.
I've got a new thing this year. It's my first year as a parental thing. I have a household of non-believers, which gives you more options. You know how you're talking sort of like, single, so on and so forth, it's all right for you kind of thing. But this represents a new chapter in my life. I am 15 years into Christmases that have been quite set on an idea or a concept of a person. And now that's not a thing anymore. And I feel like we're going to have to start like thinking and feeling a new way through Christmas as well. Possibly not this year. I think this year is still probably going to remain quite how it was. But I think come next year, like we're going to have to start sort of rethinking. Anyway, presents. How do you
Oh.
feel about presents? How do you feel about surprises?
Actually, so I like surprises. I like well thought through presents. What I discovered for the Christmases, my post-marriage Christmases, when I was with someone who was an excellent artistic present giver, like very good, and that is the thing. And I'm also a good artistic present giver. I will really think and consider. But he also really required very ecstatic performative reactions, which I struggled to give as an autistic person. And the irony of it, really, from an autistic man wishing this reaction from me, an autistic woman, no one had ever criticised my present receiving skills before, but apparently they weren't good enough, and that was actually quite difficult, and in fact has made it a little bit more of a thing for me. It was not previously something I was conscious of. I did not question my present receiving skills. So this is all a work in progress, really. Because I'm essentially doing Christmases that are not very Christmassy. I'm quite happy to not make a big thing of presents now.
Yeah.
Although I would be open to receiving from a really targeted, good artistic present giver again in the future, should such a thing arise. How about you?
I don't like surprises that aren't really surprises. So birthdays and Christmases, your kind of presents are happening. In that situation where I know presents are happening, I don't like surprises. Generally, if it is an actual surprise, where it's just, random time of the year. Like somebody sent me something in the post the other day. Genuine surprise. Didn't think it was coming. Great. Lush. Loved it. But like at those times where it's going to happen, but then you don't know what it is, I don't like at all.
And is that so it's the anticipation, or there's almost a tension, then it becomes an anxiety of something is coming. Is it the
Yeah,
anxiety?
it's coming, but you don't know what it is. Yeah,
Oh,
don't
okay.
like it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I
no,
would
that's
I would rather know. I would rather
yeah.
like, yeah, I'd rather know. I would be
Well,
quite happy to like give somebody a list, which I quite often do with my husband. And like just go, just get that.
well, no, that makes absolute sense. And when you're rethinking presence in a less Santa-centric future, perhaps something that you will be considering is, it's such a tradition of, oh, you have to not know. The not knowing, it does not work for everybody at all, actually.
No, I know a lot of autistic young people who really don't like them wrapped. Like one, there's a
Mm.
sensory issue with wrapping paper generally, if that's a thing. But also again, that not knowing. Like it's
Yeah.
there, but you don't know what it is. And then there's a lot of criticism of young people about how they present when they open presents as well.
Yes.
Yes, not just your personal feedback, but I think there is a lot of, and then sometimes, if they say something like, I already have this, or like,
Or
yeah,
it's not exactly the right one because I wanted this specific one. No, I totally like.
yeah,
And actually, yes, it then seems ungrateful, but it's a lot of performative work to have to do if you do get a present, and it does happen to be actually disappointing, then you're gonna have you might want to not appear disappointed, but to do that in a context where you, apart from anything else, you've probably just opened loads of other presents, so you're a bit tired from having reactions to things, and you've just had, your selection box for your breakfast, so you're on a sugar high, and there's sensory chaos around you because there's 12 other people opening, but like this is a thing that can
oh,
go a bit wrong.
very wrong, very, very wrong. And then I think then there's like all sorts of ideas around like spoiling Christmas. And again, we're back to that family dinner table where everyone's smiling and there's a singing carrot. Um, like it's a huge amount of pressure.
Oh,
Not just
I
adults,
just
but then like little tiny autistic people. I'm like, oh, leave it be.
exactly. And all their relatives who are also neurodivergent but don't know it, and so are having these variety of their own complex reactions. I mean, I have simultaneously very, very joyous, intensely joyous memories of family Christmases, because of excellent elements like, did I mention turkey and mince pies, but also the chocolate, oh, the annuals, the books. Flipping out, all I needed was a book, and I was just happy. I would go off and read my book, and then I had permission to just be quiet and be on my own. The book was how I got away. The book is the key present in has been in recent years. But yeah, oh, but I also have terrible memories of utter family rows and chaos and arguments because essentially it was someone had lit a touch paper on, there were only five of us, five different people's neurodivergencies all squished in a little room where we usually wouldn't be. I mean, as soon as my family, my birth family growing up, could on a Christmas day, we would just scatter to the separate parts of the house. Someone's building their Lego over there, someone's reading a book over there, someone's watching the telly over there. We don't need to see each other again till the dinner.
And this is the
Oh,
thing, people have obviously some very interesting and often quirky traditions. And I often, have you, sat and taken it down into, is it working for you? And it's probably far too late in the day to do anything about this year. But next year, the year after, can you start thinking in those terms for, could it be different? Could it work for me in a different way? Are my children going through like another phase in life? Are they heading into adulthood? Are we heading away from the bearded man? Are we move forward and slightly change things? Because I do think it should be a day that works for you. It's meant to be.
yeah, and it has the potential because it's a day where mostly people are not working, though some are. There's the potential for there to be less pressure than on other days of the year. And again, I was thinking if Christmas is meant to be like a really nice day, this is how I eventually worked out. I was like, in that case, I'll just do things where I have a really nice day. Like this seems to work. Again, privilege of a single child free 49-year-old poet type thing, but
And a Buddhist retreat.
on a Buddhist retreat. There is a pressure of memories, I have to say, and we've got about 6 more minutes, so this is quite a big topic. I do experience personally, and I think a lot of particularly autistic people can experience memories very viscerally. And there is something about, because of that sameness element of Christmas, some of those memories can just get a little bit stuck. They're very intense. They're very, you're living on a
Sometimes, I think quite regularly for me, that can be triggered by smells. And there is smells to Christmas. You're talking cinnamon and like cassia and Christmas pudding and like figs and like pine and stuff like that. And then it can be very viscerally triggered. Or even
Yeah.
just visually, if you think about wrapping paper and it's all green and it's all red and it's, it's
Yeah.
all there. Or
Yeah.
randomly Christmas cactuses. They like do visceral. They do visceral memories, Christmas cactuses, like
Oh,
the plant thing.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's like definitely a thing.
Lovely.
That's another tradition I've dropped that I actually struggled to drop. We always made Christmas puddings. They have a very, like, very, very visceral smell. There's like, it was a Victorian recipe that my great great grandmother used to do. However, I've now had like gastric surgery and I just can't eat them. And like making them from scratch, and it's a full day process, like it's a 6 hour boil, you do it in linen, it's a thing, right? And then you hang them and you do it in like late November. It's a situation. Um and it's I stopped. And it's weird. And it's weird that I've stopped. And I almost have guilt for stopping. But again, it's not serving me. Do you know what I mean? Because I literally can't serve it. I can't eat it. And I can't tell you the amount of fat that was in them. But like that was never the point. But I think there is and if I think about Christmas, if I was conjuring a smell, that would be a smell. Now it would be linked to a positive memory. But then there's also that tiny bit of guilt that I'm not doing it.
Ah. Oh, well, I hope you might be able to give yourself as a Christmas gift
A bit
the
of a
gift
break. Yeah.
of letting go of any residual guilt, letting go of, I suppose, memories will be there, both good and bad, and they will come, and that's okay. You don't have to let go of those, but actually, no need to try to hold on to them by doing things that do not serve you or do not work for you. So maybe this is the Christmas to do quite a, a deep dive, a Christmas audit. What's working? What can I
Oh.
let go of next year?
However, we do need everybody to watch the Doctor Who Christmas special because we need to discuss it when you come and see we're in March. We need to chat it through.
Always. So wishing you a very happy Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Change Sauce. I still can't say that. Maybe next year, Christmas. And thank you for listening to us throughout this year. And thanks for the feedback that you've given us. We're definitely open to more.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws. We're so glad you joined us today to explore the fascinating world of neurodivergence with your hosts, me, Nic King.
And me, Kate Fox. If our conversation sparked a thought, a question, or even a smile, don't keep it to yourself. Drop us a line at hello@neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk or visit our website neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk to write in. We'd love to hear from you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform.
Until next time, keep embracing the unique ways you juggle the chainsaws of life.